Good morning, YouTube. Warbles on a lot here. I just finished watching a movie posted by Dew in the Morning announcing that Gary Adin-Mendham has constructed a pre-scientific theory of everything, wherein he claims that all mass and all matter is composed entirely of photons moving at light speed and traveling in a spiral. Now, a spiral either indicates a semicircular track with either an increasing or a decreasing radius. So in Mendham's photonic particle substitutes must be either getting larger or getting smaller. Another definition of a spiral is a kind of a helical spiral wherein the radius of the turn remains the same, but there's either a gain or a decrease in altitude or a movement on the XY axis. So these spiraling photonic knot particles of Gary Adin-Mendham must be moving up or down or left or right or forward or backwards in order to be described as spiraling. Perhaps he means orbiting photons, moving in a circular or elliptical orbit. And on the strength of this, as conference report mentioned, pre-scientific theory with no mathematics to support it, Gary has apparently tried to nominate himself for a Nobel Prize in Physics. Well, McNuts too mentioned one reason why Gary's going to have difficulty in collecting his Nobel Prize, which is he's going to need to publish in a peer-reviewed journal. And that means other people who are qualified are going to have to go through his work and be impressed by it. Not humorously impressed, not amused, but they're going to have to tick off on it before it gets published in the peer-reviewed journal. That's what peer review is about. And as McNuts too says, Gary's going to have a big problem with that. However, put all that aside, one quirk of the Nobel Prize system is that nobody is permitted to nominate themselves, and anybody who does nominate themselves is automatically excluded from consideration. So nobody is technically, by the rules of the committee, permitted to discover something and then rush out of their laboratory screaming Eureka, as Archimedes did when he discovered displacement and realized that he could measure the displacement of the crown in order to determine whether it was constructed of solid gold or lead with gilt leaf. What the Nobel Prize Committee requires of scientists is that they hide their light under a bushel until it has been examined and found to be worth revealing. And then they will be put forth by the acclaim of their peers who will nominate them to the committee for consideration. Egomaniacs who claim a Nobel Prize on the basis of a brain fart or even a brain wave are automatically excluded. It's a fairly elitist establishment system. How do I know this? Well, in 1996, I published a book of poetry. Within that book of poetry, there's a work called Socio-Historical Quantum Theology. You can search my videos or my playlist for the Warbles in the Wilderness series. Socio-Historical Quantum Theology is in there, and I recite it to the camera if you want to hear it. In the foreword to the poem on the page opposite where the poem started, as a colophon, a final stroke to the foreword, as a joke, tongue-in-cheek, in a self-deprecating fashion, I included the line, "You can send me the Nobel Prize to the address appearing on the title page of the book once you figure out whether it should be in physics or literature." And sure enough, I was informed a couple of times by people who were so straight-laced they took the comment seriously that no, you can't get a Nobel Prize if you nominate yourself. Even if it was worthy of a Nobel Prize, you can't get a Nobel Prize once you have nominated yourself. You've knocked yourself out of the competition. So there will be no Nobel Prize for EFIL-ist Phyzicks, or whatever Gary wants to call it. There you go, dew in the morning, dawn drops, as I like to call you. I hope that clears it up, and maybe you'll get a wry smile and a laugh out of my contribution to the debate. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao. Coffee is good in the mornings.